half in the bag. I got problems inside of my brain.
Looks like Betty White's gonna die soon.
Good morning, Mr. Plinkett.
We got here early to start our shift.
Yeah.
You know, I'm paying you two $50 an hour to fix my VCR, not sit around and do nothing all day.
What are you talking about, Mr. Plinkett? We made plenty of progress on the VCR. Look.
The only progress I'm seeing around here is you two yahoos drinking all my beer.
Now that is a lie. We buy our own beer.
Look, I'm going to the doctor for my weekly brain scan. Now, if you two schmucks haven't cleaned up all these beer bottles by the time I get back, I'm gonna fire the both of you. God, niblets.
Oh, shit.
That's bad news.
Yeah. I don't want to get fired. Hey, have you seen Captain America?
I have.
Captain America is Marvel's latest feature-length teaser trailer for the Avengers movie, and it's a World War II era action movie about the origin of Captain America. Mike, what did you think of the movie?
I thought it was the origin film of Captain America. I enjoyed the first half of the film, and then I hated the second half of the film. And there was lots of things that I did not like about the film. I really wanted to like this movie. What did you think?
I had a similar reaction in that I went into this movie with really no expectations whatsoever. I don't know anything about Captain America, and so watching it, the movie starts off really exciting and really sort of charming. I was so excited to be enjoying a big movie like this. And then after the origin story sort of wraps up, there's still another 40 minutes where it's like they didn't know what to do and just meanders around for a while.
Well, unlike you, I went into the movie with expectations. Because a lot of the more recent superhero movies have not been superhero movies, like Thor and the Green Lantern and movies like that, where it's like a really kind of off-the-wall character. And we haven't had a movie where there's an actual superhero in a long time.
Yeah.
Even Superman Returns was not a Superman
He's
movie.
Dark and tortured.
Yeah. It's like, okay, I was kind of hoping for the let's go get 'em, boys, kind of like
A classic
superhero movie.
Yeah.
And this one dealt with those themes in the movie, and he was a classic superhero, but the movie got bogged down in a lot of other things that it didn't need.
Something about Captain America just kind of felt like that's the guy you want to be.
So let's talk a little bit about structure, and specifically the structure of superhero movies. This one sort of falls prey to something that a lot of superhero movies do, which is the first half of the movie is the origin story, setting up the character, learning his backstory, learning how he became the character that he is. And then the second half, it's like they never know what to do with it. It's like, oh shit, we have 30 minutes still to fill, 40 minutes to fill. He fights some bad guys. Spider-Man has that problem, Batman Begins, Iron Man.
It's the origin story conundrum. Batman Begins is a good example, because the first half of that is him training, and then the second half is like some hackneyed plot to spray gas all over the city. And then
Some like schlock plot.
I think that was the main problem with the film, was that the second half of Captain America had nothing to do.
The ending of the movie was like came out of nowhere. It's like, oh, I guess we're at the final action sequence.
Well, yeah, when that happened, I was like, is this the end? What happened? Captain America feels like a movie that was 4 hours, and they cut 2.5 hours out of it. Captain America and the love interest character, they're like, okay, now they're in love. Wait, what happened? When did they have the moment where they kind of like realized that they were in love with each other? It never happened.
She's the love interest because she's the girl in the movie.
Yeah, and now Red Skeleton's doing this. He has all these factories all of a sudden, and then we stop and we take 10 minutes to have a scene where Tommy Lee Jones, a minor character, interrogates the scientist character, another minor character.
Yeah.
And we already know the information. We know that the scientist guy works for the Red Skeleton, and he knows about this and that, and we know what Tommy Lee Jones is.
Yeah.
But we have to sit there and watch them, and it's like, we know this information. This isn't interesting.
Yeah.
And plus we have to watch Tommy Lee Jones eat a steak.
Yeah.
in complete silence and hear all the squishing and swallowing sounds. And it's like, why is this scene in the movie? Why is it 7 minutes long? And why are we not devoting this time to Captain America?
Well, that scene happens, and then immediately after, it's like, it cuts back to Captain America, and he's like, let's go get him. And then it just starts with action. And it's like, it's rushing through everything with the Captain America character.
Yeah, well, a good note on that would be Captain America kind of takes it into his own hands to go off and save a bunch of like POWs.
Yeah.
He comes back and he's like, okay, I did that. I'm surrendering myself for disciplinary action. And Tommy Lee Jones is like, no, that's all right. And then the next scene, Captain America is in like a full dress uniform, and he's like pointing things out on a map with Tommy Lee Jones, and I'm like, when did he become a general? Like, when is he making like executive decisions like that in the military?
Yeah.
And it's like, were there 5 scenes in between that? And then it's like the next scene is like, oh, you didn't call me last night. It's like, wait a minute. When did these two develop a relationship? They never did.
Yeah.
And so it felt like all these parts were missing.
It becomes what a lot of movies have been this summer, and the first half wasn't like that, which raised my expectations, but then it turns into it, which is a series of things that happen.
Yeah.
That's all it is. There's no build-up, there's no setup and payoff. It's just a series of things that happen, and that's not very compelling.
No, that's the perfect way to describe it. It's there are no, like, they had stakes in the movie. It's like, okay, Red Skeleton wants to take over the world.
But that's it.
Yeah, but that's it. I mean, there were very obvious themes of, self-sacrifice, being a hero, I mean, it was a very obvious visual metaphor about how strength comes from within.
Right.
Because he was a weakling in the beginning, and he had the spirit, more so than all the other strong guys.
Yeah.
And then there's a little mini subplot with his best friend character, how they kind of have a role reversal. The best friend character is kind of the tough guy. He's the ladies' man. And then, of course, Steve Rogers becomes Captain America, and he's strong and fit, and the ladies like him now. And the other guy becomes insecure about it, and he kind of dies at the fault of Captain America. He picks up a shield, and he's like, I could do this too, and the other guy, and he gets killed.
Yeah.
And so Captain America feels guilty about that, and that's pretty much it as far as characterization. And there's no like personal connection between Captain America and Red Skeleton. It's just like, it's almost bewildering. It feels like a script that 8 different people wrote, and they saw.
That's probably the case.
And it's a shame. So let's move on to just the look of the movie, visual effects, the overall style of the movie, and how it really kind of failed.
Well, just from a shooting standpoint, I was really impressed early on with how traditionally shot the movie was.
Yeah.
It was shot in a very traditional, competent, not obnoxious way like a lot of movies are now. You knew what was happening, you knew where the characters were in relation to each other, spatial relations, that kind of thing. And I appreciated that, like something that just calmed down and let the movie happen and let you know where people were. But then the special effects started to take over, and every time there was a big action scene, it looked like Sky Captain in the World of Tomorrow, where there's the actors in front of a green screen, and then they put him into jumping on a train or jumping away from explosions. And I was expecting it to be a little more natural as far as like stunts, real effects, pyrotechnics. I was expecting that, and especially because of the period that the movie takes place in, it's jarring when those obvious effects, keep cropping up.
That is the perfect word, jarring.
Yes.
Because the second half of the film was very jarring to me visually, as well as character.
Basically everything falls apart.
Yeah, except for action scenes.
Every aspect of the movie falls apart except for the fact that you can tell who's punching who.
Right, yes, which doesn't happen in the Transformers movies. You don't know who's punching who.
Yes.
The first half of the film really worked for me because they did the propaganda shows about buying war bonds.
Yeah. And there was even montage sequences that were edited in the way of a montage sequence from an old movie like that.
Like an old newsreel kind of thing. And that was a lot of fun, and it was really clever.
Yeah.
In the second half of the film, I was really kind of hoping for, like you were hoping for, a really kind of classic action movie.
Yeah.
Where Captain America is there with like World War II soldiers. Red Skeleton is a Nazi. He has current era Nazi technology, tanks and stuff, but he's just really strong and a bad guy and blah, 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 blah. But where the movie kind of went off the rails for me was that glowing power cube of doom.
Yes.
Which Red Skeleton, of course, finds the glowing cube of destruction, and he has a brilliant scientist who has these advanced futuristic designs that he wants to do, but doesn't have the power to do them. Blah, 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 resulting in laser guns.
And tanks that look like they're from the future.
And tanks that look like they're from the future, which has nothing to do with glowing power. You could mix styles or visuals, like, what are those people called? Steampunks?
The steampunks.
Yeah, and something that was period-based.
Yeah.
That could have been realistically made in 1943.
Well, that's, yeah, you look at it and it's like there's these giant laser guns and tanks and they all look like they're from the future, but they're made by World War II era scientists.
Yeah.
So why do the weapons look like they're from the future?
Well, the very nature of the movie does need a sci-fi element where, you know, there's some serum that turns you into a super soldier.
Sure.
But that's it. The thing I like about Captain America is it's a superhero during World War II. And we didn't need technology. We didn't need laser blasts, giant tanks, flying machines that it would have been cool if he was a Nazi and he had like 1940s technology kind of weapons, you know. But they went the sci-fi route.
Yeah.
And it just visually was a clash.
Who the hell are you? The first of many.
So in keeping with kind of the visuals and the visual style, there's lots of political correctness in the movie. The lack of the swastika.
Yes.
Lack of American flags. And the fact that the Red Skeleton was not a Nazi. He was from some sort of offshoot organization called the Hydra.
Yeah.
And which technically were from Hitler's Germany, but
it's a way to have your villains not have swastikas on them through the whole movie.
right.
Yeah.
And that's another thing. It's like I wanted to see American flags and swastikas. Classic look. And a guy with a red skull head in a Nazi uniform is a cool villain.
Yeah.
And I don't think I saw a single swastika in the whole movie.
I saw one early on. I don't
Okay.
remember what part it was, but I remember making a point in my brain that I saw one
Yeah.
because I expected to not see one.
It seemed to take this approach that, like, patriotism or vilifying your enemies was like not politically correct.
Yeah, it felt like he was walking on eggshells the whole movie.
Yeah. And Captain America all of a sudden has a racially diverse group of super soldiers that help him. There's an Irish guy, an English guy, a French guy, there's a black guy, and there's a Asian guy
Yes.
who has like an emo haircut. and it's like, what?
The only thing it's missing is someone in a wheelchair.
Right. Or a woman.
Or a woman. There wasn't a woman.
Yeah. There needed to be a Latino
It's
woman.
always a Latino woman.
Right. Not that there's anything wrong with racial diversity. I'm all for it. But this was World War II. I don't think there was even racially integrated troops during World War II, like where black soldiers fought alongside white soldiers. Like when they had that shot in the forest where all the soldiers were gathering around Captain America, there was like 5 or 6 black guys mixed in it, and visually it looked like Vietnam to me, because that was kind of the visual style of Vietnam. I mean, black soldiers fought in World War II. They even fought in the Civil War. But they had their own segregated units, and you know, or they were kind of like the cooks and stuff like that. And you know, again, not being racist, but that's historically accurate.
Yeah.
And then there's like the Asian guy, and he's like, I'm from Fresno, and I'm like, okay, shouldn't you be in an internment camp? And when they kind of pander or do things like that in a movie, especially if it's a historical movie, it's offensive to the intellect. To be fair, it wasn't a film about World War II. It was a film that took place in World War II. It wasn't like the story of this regiment in World War II. Then it's like, okay, you have to be accurate. It was a fantasy movie that took place in World War II, so there's a bit of a leeway to kind of do stuff like that. But the fact that they feel like they have to is sort of just, I don't know. The Asian guy with the emo haircut who was talking on a cell phone just threw me out of the movie.
How do you feel?
Taller.
So final thoughts. Would you recommend Captain America, the first Avenger, the Avenger prequel?
Yeah, I guess so.
A begrudging recommendation?
For a summer blockbuster type movie, it's pretty good. It's not horribly offensive or stupid.
It's probably the least insulting one I've seen this summer. So I would recommend the movie too. based solely on the strength of the first half. I thought the first half of the movie was really a lot of fun and really well done.
Yeah.
And if you were a fan of Captain America, which I'm not, I don't know anything about Captain America, but if you are, you'll probably get more out of this than we did.
Yeah. It's worth the price of admission for a 45-minute long movie. That's the first half.
Yes.
And then you can look at the second half as like a visual effects reel for future Captain America movies, or just if you want to shut your brain off and watch dumb action.
Yeah. Or just leave the theater and go watch the second half of Friends with Benefits.
Oh, yeah. So after seeing Captain America, we had the urge to revisit The Rocketeer, which is one of my favorite movies. Ignore the naysayers who say, because the movie flopped.
The movie didn't do well, and no one really talks about it much anymore.
Yeah.
And I had never seen the whole thing. I'd seen bits of it on cable when I was little. So watching it, the whole thing straight through, it felt like movie magic.
Go get him, kid.
I've watched The Rocketeer a lot of times, but revisiting it after seeing Captain America, a lot of things stood out. Most notably that there are scenes that make sense.
With a goal.
With a goal.
Yeah.
We were watching it, and there was a scene and it's like, okay, the scene starts.
Cliff, no, not again. Peavy, half the city is looking for us. Now I can fly to that nightclub in 5 minutes and nobody can follow him.
Take a cab. The only place this thing is going is back to the feds.
It has characters in it that have things to do, and there's information that's given to you that advances the plot.
And that girl means more to me than... I love her, Peeve.
And then it ends.
All right, Peavy, stand clear.
What was that?
And it's like, oh, that was beautiful. It wasn't just a thing happened.
Yeah.
It was a scene happened. And everything in a movie, every little thing should progress the story. And no fault to Joe Johnston or his direction. I think it's the script.
Oh, with the Captain America movie?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's what I was saying before. I was impressed visually with Captain America. How it's shot very classic and traditional, and you know what's happening. So yeah, I don't think it's his fault. It's just
No.
that it had a script written by 25 different people, I'm sure.
Yeah.
All these uncredited writers, and it just becomes a mess.
A lot of movies recently have been feeling like that.
Yeah.
Like Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. That felt like 16 people wrote it and were shoving in things all over the place. And we were discussing Transformers before, and how if you watch the old cartoon show, the toys were thought up first. And essentially the cartoon show was a 30-minute long ad for the toys.
Yeah.
And they've said this on the commentary of Transformers DVDs, is that, yeah, we just wanted to sell toys.
Right.
And that's fine. And these movies now just feel like we want to make money.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
We want to make a 90 minutes of film that is an assembly of things that happen that we can put into a trailer to get you into the theater to pay your money and watch our film. We got it.
It's a 90-minute long commercial for itself. It's like a McDonald's cheeseburger. It's imitating a burger.
Yeah.
It's made of chemicals and processed meats.
Yeah.
And things that are developed in a laboratory. And it looks like a burger. It tastes like a burger. It's not really a burger. And that's what Captain America felt like. Like, it's a movie. It looks like a movie.
There's actors in it and
It
things
sounds like
happen.
a movie.
Yeah.
But it's not really a movie.
Right.
It resembles one. It very closely resembles a movie.
Yeah.
But it's missing those core ingredients. Like a McDonald's hamburger is missing its core ingredient, which is probably real meat. It's also a Joe Johnston directed film.
From what I understand, that movie is the reason he got the job directing Captain America.
Oh.
Was on the strengths of that movie.
Okay.
So,
Yeah, because it's a very similar movie.
a lot of similarities and a good thing to watch for the sake of contrast as far as story structure, scripts, execution. Basically everything that fell apart in Captain America worked perfectly in The Rocketeer.
The Rocketeer is a simple movie, but it's very effective.
Yes.
It has a very solid script, and it has a good origin part and a good second part where the Rocketeer has to do stuff.
Yeah.
To
Well, and what
conclude the
happens
plot.
and what happens in the second part is informed by the first part. It
Yeah.
all congeals into a coherent story
Yeah.
that flows.
Every character has their specific direction,
Yeah.
and it all comes to us to a point at the end
Yeah.
where it's satisfying.
Things are set up early on in the movie that pay off later. There are things like I loved that at the ending, the Rocketeer defeats the bad guy in a clever way. He has to use his wits, and it's also he does it in a way that's set up multiple times earlier in the movie. There's the opening bit with the gum on the plane, and then he uses the gum to cover the hole in the rocket pack, and at the end, he uses that to beat the bad guy.
Yeah. He didn't
like-
just beat him up
He didn't just punch him.
or shoot him when he begs for mercy.
Oh, that's the end of Transformers, right?
Yes. You take something like the Rocketeer, while it doesn't have quite as much action or visual effects, it's more entertaining to watch.
It's more satisfying.
It's more satisfying
Yeah.
because everything pays off. Every character has clear motivations.
Yeah.
There's a twist in the end that's interesting, and you care about the Rocketeer, and you know what he's trying to do.
Yes.
And there's a conclusion. With Captain America, you don't know what he's trying to do,
Yeah.
other than stop the bad guy.
Stop the bad guy.
Yeah.
That's what I think of that movie now. That's all I think of is, you're bad and I have to stop you.
And things are bad when we have to cite the Rocketeer as complex storytelling.
The Rocketeer.
Hey, wasn't there something we were supposed to do?
Talk about Captain America? I don't know.
No.
Drink beer?
No, something Plinkett said before he left.
Hey, speaking of Blinkett, I think he's coming home right now. I hear his car.
Oh, shit. We were supposed to clean up all these beer bottles. He said he'd fire us if we didn't.
Oh, hot damn, you're right.
What are we gonna do now?
Wait, I have an idea.
Oh, we did the opposite of what we were supposed to do.